Hey, what's up? Dusk here. So we got the patch for Helldivers 1200 up there. You can see this patch is awesome. Let's take a look at it. So for gameplay, they've added more hazards, blizzards, and sandstorms. That sounds crazy. I can't wait to see that. Max level increased to 150. This isn't really going to change the gameplay, but for those of us that have hit max level, it'll be kind of nice to feel like you're still getting stuff out of the missions. This one's kind of minor. I don't really care about this, but it's still nice. You know, it's better than not increasing the cap. Submission balancing, retrieve essential personnel. They've basically made this one easier by requiring fewer civilians and moving the enemy spawn points farther away. If you've ever played this on higher difficulty and lost your footing, it gets out of control so fast. You just all of a sudden have like an entire map's worth of spawn dogpiled on top of the evacuation, and by the time you clear it and get your footing back, there's not enough time to complete the mission. So it was a real pain to do these, so I like these changes. Destroy command bunkers. So these were apparently too easy compared to other missions, and you know, I kind of agree with that. So they've added more objectives to destroy, and they can also now appear earlier in difficulty 5. Another broad change is they've halved the negative effect for operation modifiers, where like the stratagem cooldowns and call-in times were increased. And I just have to say, thank God. There was nothing fun about any of this, and it doesn't really add a ton to the gameplay. It just kind of makes things a little bit more difficult. All right, let's get on to the weaponry here. The arc throwers got 3 changes right here. They fixed an inconsistency with the charge time, but then they nerfed the range from 35 to 50. But this isn't a big deal because I think a lot of people did not realize how long range the arc thrower was. It's actually surprisingly long range at 50 meters. I think most of us just looked at the visual for the electricity arcing out, and we're really just using it at 35 meters anyway. So most people won't, even though it's a huge nerf, most people won't even notice this. And then the buff to it, they've increased the stagger force. That's absolutely amazing. It didn't really stagger that much before. Now it's actually going to stagger like some of the really hard-hitting shotguns. So, well, at least I hope that's the case anyway. So overall, I think this is a good look for the arc thrower. Guard Dog now restores full ammo from supply boxes. I assume they mean from like world pickup boxes, just anything, right? Either way, this is still a good buff. The guard dog would run out of ammo so fast that they're just not worth taking, honestly, because it spends most of the mission out of ammo, which just makes it useless. I don't know if this will really be quite enough. I'll have to play with it and see. Maybe it will be. Maybe it will be. Anti-material rifle, which was underrated in my opinion, had a damage increase by 30%. Massive! I know some people really champion this gun. I think you all are going to be very happy. Breaker incendiary damage per bullet increased from 15 to 20. Now, keep in mind, this is a shotgun. So when it says per bullet, it means each individual pellet. So this isn't just 5 damage buff. This is a very significant buff. I don't know how many shots the breaker or how many pellets it fires out. I'm going to guess it's probably in the neighborhood of 10. Probably more, but I think it's probably safe to say 10. So this is actually an increase in damage. This is like 50 points of damage increased. And that's not all. Fire damage per tick, but this is for all sources, not just the incendiary. Fire damage per tick is increased by 50%. The Liberator Penetrator. This is my one of my favorite guns in the game. The only thing that made me sad is it didn't have a full auto mode. But now it does! This is like Merry Christmas to me, I guess. Woo! The other weapon that I use besides the Liberator, though, is the Dominator. They've increased its stagger force and buffed its damage by 50%. What? Dude, that's nuts. That is nuts. I love it. I love it. Diligence Counter Sniper now gets increased armor penetration from light to medium. This is better. It actually kind of needed that. Slugger reduced the stagger from the slugger, which I guess kind of makes sense because you're taking the slug, you're supposed to be going for like headshots and more critical actual damage, and the actual pellet shotguns. Those are the ones with all the stopping power, right? So I think this is probably fine. But then they also reduced the damage. I was kind of shocked to see that. The Slugger must have really been overperforming. Honestly, I'm kind of shocked. And then they reduced the demolition force. I have no idea what that even means. And then they fixed the armor penetration tag in the menu. I'm not really sure what that means. I guess we'll have to boot the game up and see, right? Let's see what we have here. Slugger, Liberator, Concussive, Senator, fixed incorrect armor pen tags. Good deal. Recoilless rifles. I've been complaining about this weapon is basically almost being a bait or a trap. I think the recoilless rifle is not a good weapon, and I don't think the spear is either. I think these are bad weapons, honestly, and primarily due to the fact that you have an extremely slow and painful reload if you don't have a loader. And if you do have a loader, you run out of ammo so fast, it was like, what's even the point of having a loader, right? So, yeah, this weapon needed some love, and so they've made it now where you get one more rocket from a supply box. Instead of two, you get three. Personally, I think it's a little weak still. Spear's the same treatment, but instead of one, it's two. Also kind of weak. I'm not convinced that these are worth taking. The exception, of course, is recoilless rifle for shooting down automaton dropships, but you could also just take the new Quasar gun and use that too. But the upside is the recoilless rifle is snappier to fire, whereas the Quasar has that wind up. Like it's a 4-second wind up before you can actually fire it. So there's a little bit of functionality difference in there. Heavy machine gun, the highest rate of fire was reduced from 1200 to 950 to make it a little bit more moderate, I guess. Like, was 1200 just complete overkill? Did it not really serve? I love the idea of 1200. That just sounds cool as hell. Stratagem, the Patriarch Exosuit rockets will now penetrate armor only on a direct hit. So this is a nerf. Balancing adjustment. Chargers, normal attack does less damage to Exosuit. Probably fine. Exosuits felt too flimsy as it was. Bile spewers and the little bile spewers do less damage with their puke. That's kind of nice. Because this stuff will just randomly, like, the bile spewer will puke, and like one drop as you're diving away might hit your foot, and then it will just instantly kill you from full health. I'm not convinced that there isn't a bug with that. Bile Titan can no longer be stunned. That makes sense. A little stun grenade. A stun grenade the size of, like, what? Maybe a piece of dust to the Bile Titan, and it goes pop, and it stuns him? Yeah. Nah, I think this makes sense, right? Shriekers no longer create bug breaches. That makes sense. Shriekers hitting you while they are dead now does significantly less damage. Good. This was so stupid. Well, I mean, the less damage is good. But it wasn't a fun game mechanic to have something you've already killed just decide to kill you anyway, right? Like, that's not great. Heavy armor and medium armor protect better, and you now take 10% less damage than before while wearing heavy, and about 5% less while wearing medium. Fortified Commando and light armor is unchanged. I don't know what Fortified Commando armor is. I know what light armor is, so if anybody knows what that is, let me know. Fixed an issue where PS5 would reset when the game is reboot. That kind of sucks. Enemies now properly target exosuits like they're supposed to. Exosuits being able to fire their weapon while the map was open was not intended. The Helldiver and the exosuit both had a bug that made them take explosive damage multiple times, making things like the automaton rockets be too deadly. Now this is fixed. Alright, automaton enemy constellations that prefer to spawn more of a certain Devastator type will did not work and are now functioning correctly. This means that sometimes when playing, you will now face more Devastators instead of other enemy types. So the Terminids do this. Sometimes you get a mission that just has a ton of Bile Spewers, right? There's just Bile Spewers everywhere. Now that's going to happen with automatons where you might, instead of seeing tanks and Thors, you just see a ton of Rocket Devastators. But, you know, that might be okay now that we have better armor and better exosuits. So we solved an issue where the effective area around objects was a lot larger than intended. I think this has to do with drop pods, right? Yeah. So this is all talking about drop pods. We've all had the thing where we get our drop pod and we just can't steer the drop pod. And apparently that's because they have these giant zones where you're not allowed to steer the drop pod because you're too close to an objective. So they've readjusted those and made those smaller. So now we'll be able to steer the hell pod. All right, now we've got some ballistic shield changes. Collision mesh has been slightly increased in size for a little bit more forgiveness. Nice. Changed the shield poses so that the less of the Helldiver is exposed. It's good. The shield's kind of useless if your guy sticks out from behind the shield and gets shot anyway. Addressed a bug where part of the Helldiver would become vulnerable while using the shield in first person. I'm guessing you kind of glitched through the front of the shield or something. And then some known issues here, which if you want to read those yourself, you can pause the video right here. And anyway, that's the patch notes. These are really awesome. I'm pretty excited to get in and check this out today. Let me know what you guys think. Is there anything you liked or didn't like, or if you want to answer some of those questions that I threw out there. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.